I'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is the open meeting of the Seward, Nebraska governing body. The city of Seward abides by the Nebraska Open Meetings Act in conducting business. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is displayed on the north wall of this meeting room facility as required. Disclosure of meeting recording processes is posted in the meeting room. A participant sign-in sheet is available for use by any citizen addressing the council. Presenters shall approach the podium, state their name and address for the clerk's record, and are asked to limit remarks to 5 minutes. All remarks shall be directed to the mayor, who shall determine by whom any appropriate response shall be made. The city of Seward reserves the right to adjust the order of items on this agenda if necessary, and may elect to take action on any of the items listed. Please call the roll.
Taylor.
Here.
Colterman.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Singleton.
Here.
Streisand.
Here.
Tanya.
Here.
Morgan.
Here.
We have a quorum present.
Thank you. The first 3 items this evening make up the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
The motion and the second is any further discussion. Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Taylor, Tanya, Colterman, Miller, Singleton, Streisand, Morgan, 7-0.
All right, item number 1 on the public hearing, 7 p.m. update on the $127,000 Community Development Block Grant Economic Development Program Income Reuse Loan Fund, CDBG EDLF, for those of you keeping score at home. This is a project with the Bottle Rocket Brewing LLC. Bottle Rocket Brewing. Welcome.
Kelly, do you want to go ahead?
Sure.
Kelly from SEND, Southeast Nebraska Development District, will kind of get us started, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good. So this is not new. This is a second public hearing, just like the one for Cafe on the Square. As a reminder, the council provided a $127,000 loan to Bottle Rocket Brewing. That was to deplete the RLF and then entered into a memorandum of understanding with SEND Inc., Southeast Nebraska Development Inc., which is our 501c3, to actually administer the loan. So the funds were used for working capital and equipment for the expansion of Bottle Rocket Brewing. The use of the funds were to meet a national objective of low to moderate jobs. So the business was to create 3.6 full-time equivalent job positions. 51% of those were to be made to low to moderate income persons and maintaining 0.44 FTEs. So all conditions required by the awarded contract for the release of CDBG funds were not satisfied due to the national objective of job creation. However, the project is complete and all funds that were requested were reimbursed to the business. And I take any questions if you have them.
Any questions from the council? Greg, do you want to ask something?
Yep, so I'll fill it in. So essentially what that means is we will have a bit of funds left over from the loan funds that Bottle Rocket has paid back to SEND. And so SEND Inc., sorry, 2 different specific entities. So those funds will ultimately be remitted back to the state, and then there'll be a slight balance left over, approximately a little less than half, I believe, when we get to it, of the loan balance. And so that loan balance, based on activity by the LB 840 committee, was supplemented, and that loan will be paid off by LB 840, and then the loan will transfer to the LB 840 committee and be paid off. The biggest one with this one, and we have gentleman right here, is that when this one hit, it hit right at COVID, I believe, is when we authorized it. It was right on the doorstep of it when it came in. It went out the door, and then it hit, shut them down completely. We did give them a 2-year extension, and so they continue to work and try to get jobs put together to try and meet those qualified needs, but just over the term of the 4 years, they weren't able to complete them all. And so we'll do all the paperwork and get everything back to the state, but ultimately the loan will be paid back, and no worse for wear, other than we were able to help capitalize and push them through probably the hardest period of their existence, and obviously for their industry that was really, really rough if you were trying to have people in-house serving people and doing other things. So LB 840 approved that action unanimously. I know we have 2 members of the city council that are also on that committee. That kind of wraps it up. So we tried to extend out as long as we could and see if we could meet the objective, but it's just a tough go after such a big industry hit. I can answer any questions, otherwise if you do have specific questions of the owners, I know they're here as well.
Any other questions or comments from the council? This is a public hearing, so I'll let the public comment portion of the public hearing. If anyone from the public wishes to comment on this item, please come forward at this time. Seeing no wishing to comment, I will close the public comment portion of the public hearing and return to the council for any further discussion.
Kelly, I don't believe we have any action items on this, just to hold the public hearing, correct?
So with that, we'll move on to the next item. Alright, thank you. Under administrative items, we have, consideration of Seward Foundation applications. The first one, under 1A, is the Lead Center. This is for flooring. This is $20,000 requested, and we have Katrina Goldsmith with us this evening. Would you like to speak on this item, or Greg?
Well, we'll have Katrina do it.
Okay.
Come on, Katrina, come on up.
I tried. I offered.
We are in dire need of our flooring. It has outlived its lifespan. What we currently have is very high, the cost to maintain it. What we'd like to replace it with is LVT that doesn't require yearly maintenance. And that, I believe you have the cost of some of the replacements with that.
The other big element for yours, Katrina, is also a safety issue.
Yes, because we had some.
On the concrete joints that were cut into the foundation, there is some sort of air issue, moisture issue that's causing bubbling. And some of these bubbles on that joint, and you can see that at some point in time prior to Katrina, I believe, it was
Yes.
even replaced on all those joints. All of the tiling was replaced because they're slightly off, you can tell.
I mean, they're supposed to move.
Yeah, and so the bubbling is so bad that any of our senior patrons that go down there, it's essentially a trip hazard. And so we really want to get it out of there as soon as possible. And so Katrina's been looking for creative solutions to try and find funding. And so she's here before you on this one.
Any questions or comments from the council? You need a motion, I assume?
I'll make a motion.
Greg?
Well,
How do you handle this?
let's hold on. We were requested because we have so many and due to consideration by the foundation. And I know we have Carl and Tatum sit on that board. They would like us to at least try to give them an indication of order, priority, or funding. Once we get through them, there's a motion at the end. I think we should just rank them and do it all in a row. I think there's also some specifics, and Mark and Rick are here, we can talk about the Civic Center. There may be an opportunity there to still fund that project, but do it in a different way. But we'll talk about it through the foundation.
So let's just go through each of these then, and thank you, Katrina. And then, at the end, we can, the council can make a decision on how they wanna move forward. So item 1B, this is the Seward Memorial Library, sound improvement. Becky, welcome, this is $2,500 requested.
Okay, we're looking at making the lower level conference center better. The sound is basically not working much at all. I was looking up, okay, in technology years, how many is that people years? So 1 to 11, so 10 years old technology is like a 110-year-old person, basically. So, I mean, you know how fast technology changes, and we've tried to keep up by patching what's there. It's beyond that at this point. So we can still do videos down there. The sound is what's the problem. And so trying to get bids, we had one company from Omaha say, send us pictures and we'll send you some numbers, and never came out, and not really, it was not complete bid. and they never volunteered to come out. So the one that I included with the grant application was the only one that actually came out and saw what we have. So the Friends of Seward Library have committed $2,500 already, and we have designated this project as a Seward County Gives project, and the Seward Library Foundation meets April 17th, so I'll be asking them as well. That's why I'm not asking for more of the total of this project from the Seward Foundation.
But regardless of if you do receive the funds from the other sources, you're saying you still would want this $2,500?
Well, because Seward County Gives is in May,
Okay.
and
I just wanna make sure.
maybe they'll get $20, you know,
Absolutely.
it's an unknown.
No,
so.
that's fair. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure it wasn't, you know, because of timing of everything
timing,
creates some,
right.
some complications.
And
Okay.
I'm not sure, when does the Seward Foundation meet on these, you know?
So we just met,
Later this year.
yeah, I think May might be the next one.
I mean, so the potential exists that it would not be necessary, but
Or you just get a nicer sound
because of,
system.
well, yeah, get better mixer or something.
All right, sounds good. Any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, thank you, Becky. We'll move on to number one, item C. This is Seward County First Impression. This is a welcome sign replacement.
Gary's not here, so I'll go ahead and introduce this
Okay.
one. I'll note, if you're looking on your iPad, you may not see it. I think it's the way that it's a form fillable, but if you're looking at it on the online agenda, the First Impressions group is looking at replacing the welcome signs into town. There are 4 of them.
That's the one
There-
that got knocked down in one of the storms in the last couple of years.
One of them was,
Yeah.
yes. They're in pieces. I think some of them are the original ones too. I think we replaced 2 of them. I don't know that all 4 were originally replaced. I think that maybe the west and the north one are even older, back to like 2013, earlier. And so they wanted to update them, unify them, go out and get solicitations for the service committees like the Rotary, Kiwanis, and other groups that had participated in that. And so they had originally come and just asked the city for a contribution, and we felt like this sounded like a good project for Seward Foundation, rather than a project and trying to fund it in the middle of the year when we haven't really budgeted for it. So we would have to wait around until budget season to kind of dive into this one. And so I recommended to Gary that he may want to put in an application for this one. He did so. I believe in the amount of $8,216.31 would be the portion from the Seward Foundation being requested. So that is the project. I think they're working through Mustang Graphics to kind of have a more high-end, almost plastic one that will probably hold up a little bit better over time to the weather than the fading and yellowishness that's been going on with the ones we have. But I think 8 to 10 years is all these can handle. I mean, you're asking for a long time to try and get them to go as long as they have. So, again, answer any questions you have, but I think there's numerous asks across numerous community entities for this one. So, Seward Foundation would just be one of them.
Any questions or comments for Greg? Seeing none, move on to item 1D. This is the Seward Civic Center. South entrance ADA entry. We have Mark Colterman this evening. This is a $25,000 request. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. As you know, we're on the agenda here for item number 2 in a few minutes, but this would be what we call phase 2 of the project, and it will cost about $120,000 to do that south entrance on the old building where the hand railing is around it, and we're gonna put ramps up the sides and redo the steps. But our rationale was, since we're doing all the handicap accessibility inside, it just makes sense that we not wait while we have a contract here. We just will get started, but we have to raise $120,000 to do that privately. So we've already started a fundraising campaign. We're gonna try and go to some foundations. Apparently the Seward Foundation at one time had given a $25,000 grant to to do the ramp inside and it was never completed. Ryan Seaman told me that. But we still feel like we can get 25,000 from the city. We've already got about another 30,000 committed. Once we get to a certain point, we're gonna go to a state foundation. We're gonna try and get a matching grant of about $60,000. And then we're gonna try to give Seward next year. This isn't something that needs to happen right away, but we wanna get started on it. And so we thought if we could get some seed money from the foundation, and start in the right direction. Our project's gonna take about a year to complete. So at this time next year, we hope to have the whole east side done, and all the handicap accessibility, all that other stuff completed. So our request is 25,000 to the foundation. I've already talked to the foundation. They said they're gonna meet, I think, in June and make their recommendations, but we had to have our request in, so.
Thank you, Mark.
Questions?
Yeah, any questions for Mark?
This one's particular, Mark brought up the issue that was addressed by Ryan Seaman. Carl, do you know if that money's just sitting there in wait still, or
I
had
think
been
so, I was
written
on
off?
it at the time too, when we approved that. We
So
didn't,
with that application and with the foundation, after a certain amount of time, it will, if it's not executed, it will go back into
the pool,
unrestricted pool of funds, and then it'll have to be a reapplication again. So it's not necessarily designated anymore for that purpose, but it's
the money is
back
there.
into an unrestricted pool
Okay.
that the
Well,
applications would get.
Ryan encouraged me to apply, he said it's a good project, they'd like to do that type of thing. Since it's handicapped accessible and so many people use it in this community, and it's something that needs to be done, we thought if we could get it started right away, that'd be important.
I thought maybe you're gonna find that 25 grand during the remodel, like your mom put in a wall somewhere.
We'll tell you about that under item number 2.
Any other,
Keep dreaming, Mayor.
any other questions for Mark? Seeing none, thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
So Greg, how do you wanna handle the,
We should talk it out real quick, see if anybody has any,
Well, is there
They
there
will-
only so much in the, how are you with funds? I guess that's the question. Is there money to do all of these, is there money to do a portion of these? Oh, he's gonna look.
they probably just want us to rank them, so then they can decide based on the ranking and how much they wanna, allocate that at this time, would be my guess, but.
Well, I'd
Carl.
say the way, I think that we've talked about it before, would be, I think we need to vote on which ones we would wanna approve and send on to the foundation first of all. And then in that, to prioritize which ones would be a higher priority or a higher need in /1 from the city. That way, when we go through and review those as the foundation, they know which ones would be a higher priority, so they can allocate funds accordingly to where one might get fully funded and and a lower one might not get fully funded. That sort of example, that's why the priority would be there.
Totally, I'm just curious about what kind of funding is in the foundation at this time.
So I'm trying to find it.
You may not know.
So I guess while Carl was looking that up, so the question, I guess, depends how you wanna do this, do you wanna add them or subtract them? Do you wanna add items to your list, or do you wanna take these items and say which ones you don't want, if any? That's probably the easiest, and then the ones that are still standing, then you can decide on the order. Hopefully by then Carl will have some numbers.
Well, we had talked about, I think during the budget conversation, like the lead center flooring was an example, somebody said we might be able to fund through the foundation, like we actually had that conversation already. So I think it's important to leave that on there. And I think we also had some, I don't remember the specific items with the library, but I know we had those. And I think we talked about that Civic Center one, because I remember we talked about it the last time it was in front of handicap accessibility. The last time it was in front of the council, we talked about that one. The only one that I don't think that we've discussed as a council previously was the First Impressions one, which I think is a valid project.
That's very helpful, Jessica, we're not eliminating any of them, right?
I don't wanna eliminate anyone.
Anyone else wanna tell me?
But I'm just pointing out, we've already discussed 3 of the 4.
Well, and to Jessica's point, I think these are all, you know, very good projects, they're all, I think technically, the way we use the word qualified, you know, it's a very loose term, I think, even though we haven't discussed the signs, obviously you drive by, you can see some of these signs are in need of repair. The question is, should they be repaired or replaced, it's how you can pay for it and when you can do it. I guess to follow up on that question, are there any of these items that you would not want to forward on? And if there's nothing that you don't want to forward on, then we get my original question was, how would you like to rank them? See, we come full circle.
I think the signs are number 1.
Okay, you like the signs?
I mean, that's what people see when they come to town.
Rich?
I'd like to see us work with the other groups and the community groups that we have established and see if they would be willing to participate with us in replacing it, because technically, the first impressions is very important, and it is something that a lot of people can get behind, the other groups in town, so.
Well, I assume this oddly specific dollar amount of $8,216.31. Either it's very creative, made-up number, or I'm assuming that's probably going to different sources, isn't it? To get
Yes.
funding for
I
it.
think they
I
have
can-
the Visitors Bureau.
So I think he is, to some extent, trying to divide and conquer,
Yep.
is
You
my
wanna-
understanding.
Derek has the
Derek.
numbers, cause again, for some reason, when we load this, it
Sorry
doesn't
about
wanna
that.
load.
PDFs, what can you do? So, sources of funds, uses of funds, so Seward Foundation, they request $8,216.31, as you know. Concordia University, 2,500, Seward County Visitors Committee, 2,500, and the remaining nonprofits, 1,200. So they account for $6,200.
Good.
So, I guess, I think all of them are valid, but I mean, I think the ones that we as a city have more of the responsibility for are the ones that are our actual assets. That's my thought process. I agree, the signs are highly important.
But when you come into town to see the assets, you gotta see what you're welcoming to the town. You want that impression. Not everybody's gonna go by the Civic Center. You know, I'm just saying, you know, they could be going east to west, south to the interstate. I'm just saying, we're bringing people into town, we wanna welcome people into town, we want them to get that first impression. My opinion.
How did you fund it?
Yeah. So depending on the different funds that we have, so generally, it looks like 27,643 available funds for the Seward Foundation, which we have allocated for Seward Aging Services Fund, which that would be vastly larger. I don't know if we have basically 175,000 available on that
Well,
one.
can we pay for the senior center flooring out of that?
That's what my suggestion would be. I think with the Lead Center flooring, I think that would be obviously priority number 1, just because of the need and the available funds that would fund that.
And could you also potentially do the handicap accessibility, which is often older people, out of that as well, or is that a stretch?
I think that might be a stretch, possibly. I think that would be something valid, but I think that is a valid point with doing the Civic Center and the long-term aspect of it with the updates that it has been through before. I think it would be another way of getting it back through again. And then I would say going probably kind of a toss-up between the library and the First Impressions group, with priority probably being the library first for me, and then the First Impressions, with that having other opportunities from other groups, as it's already shown they've got 3 other ones in line, so that would be my preference.
I would echo. That's exactly where I am.
Say that again, Carl, I didn't.
So it'd be-
Sorry, that for us, please.
So we're gonna prioritize these. The Lead Center flooring would be 1, the Civic Center would be the 2nd, followed by the Memorial Library request, and then the First Impressions request.
I'd second that. I mean, I agree with what Carl just said.
Well, and also because that aging money specifically is very, I mean, it could go specifically to the lead center very easily without any issues. And you can probably make an argument that handicap accessibility has some time,
Some part of it, yeah.
some part of that.
So I'm
You
gonna,
could probably get a partial funding.
I'm gonna interject slightly because Katrina's here on those funds. She knows a lot about that fund. That fund is specifically for essentially the capital improvement of the senior center, correct? Is there technically a different process you have to go through to request those funds? Does that pass through your board?
It has-
Their board
The,
too?
the Seward Foundation has, that's where those.
They
funds-
oversee it, yes.
You're right.
Because we took it out of some other fund at some point while I was here and moved it under this.
Right, so I think that was the old Seward Aging Services fund itself.
Yep.
Was a 501c3 and disbanded, or I don't know what you
Yep.
wanna call it, and it's now
Dissolved.
dissolved, and now it's under us, as Seward Foundation.
How do you apply for those funds normally, Katrina? Because you're the only beneficiary.
It has to be requested through our board, and then I have to request it through the foundation. Like I had to do it a couple weeks ago in our hot water heater.
So you're gonna get into those funds for your hot water heater.
But that's not gonna be 100,000 plus.
Sure, not looking at the allocation of the use of those funds, though.
What?
Are you saying
It
you
was
don't
set up so
see it?
that, sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was set up so that if anything were to ever happen, it was never a burden on the city. So when things break down like my hot water heater. So it seems like there's a lot of money in there, but if you walk through my kitchen and I start rattling off, so you have to keep some funds in there. Like my double oven is original to the building, and it's to replace that, when it does, it's 30-some years old, is $50,000. My commercial washing machine is $40,000. I mean, those two things can eat those funds up very fast, so it sounds like we have a lot of money in there. However, you have to keep some of those funds in there, because there's things that just continuously break down, because we're at that 30-year mark.
I'm just making sure if we're gonna go to that fund. I
Yeah.
mean, again, the foundation could say, go back around
Right.
and come back around to us, but I wanna
Yeah.
make sure we follow the process correctly to access those funds. Because I don't know that your board gave you authorization to apply
I
for
mean, I can
these.
access those funds whenever I want, I just have to go to my board meeting, we
Yes.
have to say we want to access those funds. And then we have to show, I have to take minutes saying that I did it and why, and I have to have bids.
And you didn't do that for this one.
I have not done that for
Yeah.
this one, not
Just-
at this point.
Sometimes you gotta do a process, I'll make sure the process is correct for accessing
Yes.
those funds and we're not circumventing her board. Because it is kind of a special fund and she is the only
We just didn't want it to
beneficiary
deplete
over in her facility.
all those funds so that if something does major go on and there's no funds left to replace my oven or something major that does go on.
Councilmember Miller, when you said in the normal Seward Foundation fund, the available funds was only 27, you said?
Yeah.
So we have 50-some thousand in ass.
Yeah, that's why I was like, well, if it could come from the aging fund, that made sense to me. Also, I was thinking with the flooring, is that something we can absorb into our regular budget when it comes budget time, since it's part of the asset?
It was,
Maybe passed on it last
it
time.
was
I know we
eliminated
passed on,
last time.
I know we passed on it last time, I remember.
These are the call this fund that don't touch it fund.
I'm looking for solutions.
Yeah. I mean, one option would be is, you can rank these how you want. I assume we could simultaneously, if you wanted to go to the, I guess here's my question, do you not wanna go that other route?
I mean, we don't have an option, we will have to go that other route if we have to go that route.
Well, what I'm
So we
just saying
have to
is,
put floors in.
because you mentioned that you wanna keep that available for other needs, so.
Would prefer to keep
Okay.
as much funds in there for,
So I think ultimately, I mean, it's gonna be the foundation's decision. So if you wanna rank it the way I think Carl mentioned 1342, that's how I have it on my score sheet. If you, agree with that, then we could probably go to a motion. If you don't agree with that, then you can offer up, a different order. But, I think, it's hard to know without being in the room what the foundation really cares about as far as, are you better off listing all of the small number items first, thinking you might get all the small ones and then not the big one? Or are you better off maybe it doesn't matter? I don't know what the strategy is with this, if there is one. So, if you're, Carl, if you're good with your order, is there any other, questions or comments, or did you wanna make a motion on that?
I'd say the only, and I'm assuming when you're talking strategies with the foundation.
Right.
As a board, they will look at everything that's considered before allocating funds, so they will look at the total requests before doing any voting on the amount of funds awarded, so.
My last quick question is the 27 you identified, is that just for the city portion, or is this the school ones that are going through the school as well also going to be considered towards that 27?
Correct, so
So-
anything that's
So we're
designated-
competing with those ones as well?
Correct.
Okay. In the, just a procedural thing, in the future, we should probably make sure that, the foundation's sending up, me or Derek, the minutes or financial information, so we can brief them. So,
Well-
we wanna let them know, to not get their hopes up if there's only $5,000 sitting there and they have a $50,000 ask.
And I don't know why, in my head, I thought it came to the foundation first and then came here,
Yeah, no.
but I guess
It's
not.
always passed through.
Got it.
And that's kind of the council acts as basically the gatekeeper or the clearinghouse for applications that come through.
Well, and that's the way it's set up. It's
Yeah.
the same for the school board because
Yeah.
they're the ones technically making the request to the foundation.
I think Mark had a comment.
Yeah, going forward,
Just,
thank you.
just a point of clarification, if it would be helpful, the only reason we put in for 25,000 is because that's what Ryan suggested we do. But, if it would be helpful, and we broke it up into 2 years and did 12,500 each year, that would, I think we can cash flow that through our process, but if we can get a commitment over a 2-year period of 12,500 a year, that's something I would suggest is doable for us, if that helps you guys at all.
Sure, appreciate that. Thank you, Mark. Anyone else wish to comment on this?
Can you remind me how you ranked them, Carl? Do you remember?
Lead center flooring, so A is 1, D as 2, B as 3, and C as 4. So it'd be lead center, civic center, library, and then Seward County First Impressions.
Any other questions or comments? Or would you like to make a motion, Carl?
That would be my motion.
I'll make a second.
Motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Kaler, Tanya, Skolterman, Miller, Singleton, Streisand, Morgan, 7-0.
Alright, thank you. Item 2, consideration of a recommendation to award a construction contract to BIC Construction in the amount of $200.
No more higher.
$498,000.
Couple extra zeros.
It's the bifocals, man, I can't see. For Civic Center Phase 1 Improvements Project. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Mark Coleman from the Civic Center Commission. As you see there, we went out for bids, we had three solid bidders. BIC was a low bid of $2,498,000. Sampson Construction was next at $16,000 more. And then, Sheila Caton was third bidder, and they were $150,000 higher than that. Our budget amounted to $2.2 million, so we have been in negotiations with BIC Construction and Architects. We'd like to have you accept this bid. They will come in and change order, $300,000. We've got that in the works already, but they don't have the final numbers on that. But this would, they've all agreed that they can do it for 2.2 million where we said we could, fund it. Langworthy Trust is on board with this process and, is willing to go the $2.2 million.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any questions or comments from the council?
Since you're giving BIC, have you given the other ones a chance to say, hey, can you come down and do what we budgeted?
No, they were the low bidder, we felt it was only fair to them to give them the bid. They bid like everybody else at the same price, and then since they were the low bidder, we asked our architects to work with them to get it down, to the budget. And, we're really not changing a lot. One thing we won't be doing in phase one is the kitchen, but we are gonna be putting the bathrooms in downstairs. There'll be handicap accessible bathrooms. We've got a different product that we're gonna use for the, heating and air conditioning. Same process, except it's a different model, different brand name. Things like that they re-engineered and were able to save $300,000. But they all bid on the same thing, and it came in at, the bid you see there.
And again, a reminder, the project is kind of a different project because it's all paid for by the trust as an entity.
It's all
And so
private money coming into the
Yep.
city.
we're just a pass-through essentially as the beneficiaries, so.
Any other questions or comments for Mark?
We're still gonna raise the money for the south entrance right away as phase two. We just feel that's important.
I think the Civic Center, you know, I think that's been a great asset to the community, and I think it's important that we modernize and update it to keep it more relevant and functional for the community. So I think this is a good project, and we're fortunate to have the Langworthy Trust to support it. Are there any other questions or comments from Mark? Otherwise, entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Kaler, Tanyas, Coulterman, Miller, Singleton, Strice, and Morgan, 7-0.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for your willingness to work with us.
Absolutely. It's an important issue. Item 3, consideration of a task order number 1 to a master services agreement signed with JEO Consulting Group Incorporated for GIS services in the amount of $173,630. Mike, welcome.
Thank you, and good evening. So this is an amendment to an existing agreement. Essentially, it's another task order. So this is for update of our GIS system. So it's essentially electronic mapping of all the city's infrastructure, our buried assets, and some of our overhead electrical assets as well. So we're in the process. We've made good progress. We have a new GIS map virtually ready to go online. There are some still inaccuracies. We've primarily taken our old data and essentially put it on a new platform, much greater detail. With that, we need to improve the accuracy of 4 systems. So our stormwater system, our potable water system, our sewer system, and then electric. So the electric system has been advanced the most out of all these 4. The amount here, $173,000, represents 2 year, what they anticipate to be a 2-year budget for this project. The majority of this, roughly $112,000, is projected to be for 2 interns. And this year they have identified 2 Concordia interns that would spend the summer here. They would use surveying equipment and satellite data equipment the city has, and they would record. And so for the storm sewer system, they would literally go to manhole covers. They would get a position, location on that, elevation, and then they would open up the cover and get an invert flow line elevation, confirm the directions, number and size of pipes as an example. We would repeat this for the water system and the wastewater system. Essentially, they would go through our network throughout the city. So this has, for this summer, anticipated 10 weeks of 2 people. This company, JEO, would provide them with a truck. They'd be technically JEO employees. They'd be provided with, from JEO with protective equipment, training, and then they would provide the service to us. The remainder of the budget here is designated for other tasks that are necessary to kind of modernize and improve that system and make it more functional. So we're trying at this point to improve its accuracy as best as we can. To date, so this year we had approved in our budget from 4 departments, $45,000 each, $180,000 total dollars. And so far in this fiscal year, they've been operating on what was remaining from last year's agreement. And so we've actually made quite a bit of progress on that. So potential for another task order in another year if we, towards the end of next summer, expend this budget. And it's a little bit ongoing, so as we identify needs, as we improve, then we come to you task order by task order. So with your approval, we'd like approval of this amendment amount of $173,630.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions or comments from the council?
I'm intrigued by that. I think it sounds like a very good program, but I want to know a little bit more about the liability and the training that they're going to receive on site, along with, will they be, who's going to be responsible for the oversight of the calculations and so forth? Is it going to be JEO, or is it going to be the city of Seward?
So the last page of the 6 pages for the documents, for those embedded interns, as they call them.
Yep.
It does list out a little bit of the owner's responsibilities, but primarily they will be JEO employees, and they will be the responsibility under the supervision of JEO itself, just like any other JEO employee. The first week they'll onboard, we will not be charged an hour for that. They'll have periodic training sessions, fun activities for interns and things like that, none of which the city will pay for. We will pay for their direct time. They want to park the vehicle at the wastewater plant behind a fenced area with a gate and things like that. They would show up, they live here in Seward, they'd show up at the wastewater plant, pick up the truck, and then spend 8 hours driving around the city. So we will provide some direction to them. And so throughout this project, it's kind of been a shared city knowledge combined with JEO's essential structure in terms of updating the system.
And this is a really valuable project because you don't know you need it until you need it, and it's too late to get it.
Right.
So like when we had the big water issue with the flooding, and we finally found where the break was in the water main. The problem was, go turn off the valve next to it, the closest valves, right? Well, on the map it said the valve's supposed to be here. It wasn't there. And you find a valve that's there, that's not on the map. And so this is, a good way to geotag the very important parts of the infrastructure. So in the future, manholes are where they're supposed to be, valves are where they're supposed to be, lines are where they're supposed to be, and you have more data. So hopefully there will be fewer issues in the future with contractors doing work in and around Seward. And also if there happens to be another serious situation, we'll have the best information available at that time to be able to act quickly and effectively and efficiently. Is that fair, Mike?
It is indeed fair. It also provides us a benchmark of how big our network is, what size pipes. And when it comes to replacement, we have to figure replacement ratio. We need to know how many feet per year, or miles per year. So our road network, as an example, is 50 lane miles. And so we kind of have to, how long or what road's going to last. And so we can't, we need to kind of keep up with that infrastructure. So all these tie together, and we have many more uses potentially for the fire department. The information on the hydrants, and when we do fire flow testing, that'll be attached to that specific hydrant. And then in the future, fire department will be able to go out, identify which is the closest hydrant, which has adequate fire flow, as an example, things like that. Electric department as well, before they go out to repair some outage, they can look up, a photo attached, be able to see what equipment's on there, load the truck up with the equipment, so rather than go out, identify it, come back to the shop, pick up what they need. There's all sorts of efficiencies we'll gain from an accurate system.
Another one for us is a lot of the time in our discussion with developers and development, we're relying specifically on GIS because we're not going out there digging it all up to see what's in the ground. And so we need really accurate GIS so we can say, here's where your connection points are, here's where the manholes are that you're gonna pull your wastewater from, here's the elevations and calculations for your slopes and everything else. And when, as I'll say what I've told my whole staff on this is, with GIS, you get what you put in. If you put in junk, you get out junk. And so we have to be very, very methodical to put in quality data that is vetted and reviewed and make sure it's of a certain quality. Because if it's not, every use of it is bad. And we've seen that over the years. I don't think we've specifically touched it since I've been here, but right beforehand, I think we went through, 3 different GISs in short order. And so we feel like this is the appropriate one. G-Works is our current one through GIS, and I know that the county, Daryl's here, he could speak to it, the county's moving away from them. They're just not able to perform some of the things that we want to see, and so our GIS is really kind of the standard that we like. And it'll be nifty. It's ready to go, so as soon as we put it live, you guys will be able to see it. I've interacted with it a bit, and it's quite comprehensive. So.
Any other questions? Yes,
I have
Rich?
another one. Is this gonna be done in stages then? Or is it gonna, like, they're going to start in this location and work through this network, and then they're gonna start in another location and tie in that network? Is that, I don't wanna be too technical here, but.
Yeah, no, that's accurate. So we don't have a final plan yet.
Okay.
So we do believe, because the storm sewer system is the farthest, most inaccurate,
Yeah.
it also, I think, for these interns represents the easiest to gain information, the safest for them. The last thing we're gonna do is the sewer system, sewer gases and all sorts of hazards involved with that. And then within that, we'll probably choose areas of the city where we know the information is worst, and then try to improve that, and then methodically work our way around. So I think we'd aim for the low-hanging fruit first.
Right.
And then if in the end some detailed work needs to be done by city staff, we'll do that at some future date and augment that, so. David C. Stack is fully versed, and so, using this equipment, he will be one of the main contacts, with the interns. Jared Hochstein is also extremely well versed in the use of these equipment. So a lot of the work done on the electric side, David and Jared have worked together with JEO, and we have a very good path, right? So we just have to continue that work on.
And I believe even on the water side, if you've been watching the water main project on Highway 15, David, as that stuff has been opened up and exposed, is out there tagging it and utilizing our equipment that we have on site now to get that in there as accurate as possible, load all that data.
So he actually creates what they call breadcrumbs, which are just little white squares as he takes shots, and then he gets back to the office and he can actually drag where the line we thought was over to where the line we know is. And so horizontally is about 3-inch accuracy with the equipment that we've purchased, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Any other questions or comments? If not, entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Second.
Your motion and second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, to register your votes, please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Kaler, Tanya, Coltman, Miller, Singleton, Streisand, Morgan, 7-0.
Alright, item 4, consideration of a change order number 3 in the amount of $24,154.90 with Gearing Construction and Ready Mix Company for the Isaac Walton Highway 15 Improvement Project. Welcome back, Mike.
Thank you. So this amount probably represents the last, change order for this project. It's nearly complete right now. It's part of the detour. It's well lit at nighttime. The project at that, was completed, in good quality. There were a couple items missed, and so there was a requirement to, lane mark with paint, right, as we do typically for our collector arterials, major and minor arterials, things like that, not local roads. Unfortunately, on the type of material that we would want to specify, the specifications included the word optional, and so we got a bid price on regular paint. And so if you've been up on Waverly Road, when that project was bid, that was bid on regular paint. And most of that, anywhere where tire tracks have crossed that, have come off. And Bob Meyer's crew, every June, they essentially repaint all the lines downtown ahead of the July 4th celebration. And it's not possible for them to kind of keep up with every additional mile of road that we install, like Waverly, and mark that with line painting. So we typically go to a more durable product. And so the East Seward, the first portion from the dog park through the roundabout up to Evergreen, that was all done with this change order polyurea paint, where they groove the pavement itself, put it down. They modify the temperature, they heat up the materials, they mix them through a nozzle, and they apply it immediately. It's a very, very durable coating. And so you can see that project installed 3 years ago. The lane marking is still very good, should be very good for many, many years. The product itself is roughly 4 to 5 times what the regular paint, but of course we get more than that in the longevity. And so we simply currently don't have the equipment set up for the city crews to apply this type of material. It takes a rather large vehicle, an expensive vehicle, with all of these capabilities of heating and mixing the components immediately before applying. I did check these prices here. We got good, essentially matching bid prices we've had on previous projects. So effectively, the subcontractor's essentially given us a very fair price on this. The second item of this is topsoil. So we did require, and the contractor complied, they scraped off the top of 6-8 inches of soil that has organic content, and it has a microbiological aspect to that. It holds moisture, so that's what's necessary for the seeding to take. And so they did salvage that, they reapplied, we fell short. There's a large area under where the old pavement was and removed, and that was bare clay soil, subsoil beneath the pavement. And so we did have them haul in that, and so the second portion of this change order is that import of